I'm going to tell you the story of a man named David Miller, and I promise you, by the end of this, you will never look at a stranger on the street the same way again. It was a cold November evening, the kind where the wind cuts through your jacket and makes you walk faster just to get home, and 34-year-old David was walking hand in hand with his 7-year-old son Ethan back from the grocery store, their breath fogging in the air, when Ethan suddenly stopped walking and tugged hard on his father's sleeve. "Dad, look," he whispered, pointing across the street to a bus stop bench where a young woman sat with a little girl curled into her side, both of them shivering, a single duffel bag at their feet being their only visible possession in the entire world. David slowed his steps, his eyes following his son's finger, and something in his chest tightened when he saw the woman's face. Not because she looked poor, but because she looked exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep, the kind of exhausted that comes from carrying a burden alone for far too long. "Dad, they haven't eaten," Ethan whispered again, his small voice trembling, and David realized his son had been watching them for longer than he thought, had noticed the little girl's hollow cheeks, had noticed the way she kept glancing at the grocery bags in David's hands like she was trying not to stare. Before I go any further into this story, if you believe in kindness, the way this little boy believed in kindness, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button on kindness. True stories. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that good people still exist. Because what happens next in this story is something I think about every single day. David crossed the street without another thought, kneeling down in front of the bench, so he wasn't towering over them, and asked the woman her name. "Sarah," she said quietly, pulling her daughter closer, her voice guarded like she expected to be judged or turned away. "And this is Lily. She's 5. David introduced himself and Ethan, then without making a show of it, he simply held out one of the grocery bags, a bag of apples, a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, things that wouldn't need a stove or a kitchen to eat, and said, "Please, take this, no questions asked." Sarah's eyes filled with tears almost instantly, and she tried to refuse at first, the way proud people do when kindness catches them off guard. But Lily was already reaching for an apple with small trembling hands, and that was the moment Sarah's resistance broke. "We lost our apartment 3 days ago," Sarah admitted, her voice cracking. "My husband left 6 months ago. I lost my job after that, and I've been trying everything. Shelters are full. I didn't know where else to go tonight." David looked at his son, who was watching Lily eat with a quiet, serious expression, far beyond his 7 years. And something settled in David's heart, a certainty he couldn't ignore. "There is a diner 2 blocks from here," David said, standing up and offering his hand to help Sarah to her feet. "Let's get you both something warm, and then we'll figure out the rest." Sarah hesitated, searching his face for some hidden motive, but found none. Only the steady patience of a man whose son had taught him something that evening about paying attention to people the world had stopped seeing. They walked to the diner together, Ethan holding Lily's hand, like they'd known each other their whole lives, and over hot soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. David learned that Sarah had once worked as a schoolteacher, that she had a degree, that circumstances beyond her control had unraveled her life thread by thread until she was left with nothing but her daughter and a bag of clothes. David, who ran a small home renovation business, and had a spare room in his house that had sat empty since his own wife passed away 2 years earlier, made a decision that surprised even himself. "I have a room," he said carefully, not wanting to overwhelm her. "It's not much, but it's warm, and it's safe, and you and Lily can stay there while you get back on your feet for as long as you need." Sarah cried then, real tears, the kind that come from relief so overwhelming it feels like drowning, and she kept saying she couldn't accept, that it was too much, that she didn't even know him. But Ethan, sitting beside Lily, looked up at his father and said, "Dad, we have to help them. That's what you always tell me, right? That we take care of people." That night, Sarah and Lily came home with David and Ethan, and what started as a temporary shelter slowly became something neither of them expected. Weeks turned into months. Sarah found work at a local elementary school. David helped her file the paperwork to get back on her feet financially. And the 2 children became inseparable, filling the quiet house with laughter it hadn't heard in years. David and Sarah's friendship deepened slowly, built not on grand gestures but on shared dinners, quiet conversations after the kids were asleep, and the simple comfort of 2 broken people learning to trust again. A year later, David stood in that same house, now filled with warmth and life, watching Sarah help Lily with her homework while Ethan set the table for dinner. And he realized that one small act of kindness, born from his son's compassionate heart, had rebuilt not just Sarah and Lily's life, but his own as well. He often thought back to that cold November evening, to the moment Ethan tugged his sleeve and whispered those 4 words that changed everything. And he understood then that sometimes the people who teach us the most about love and kindness are the smallest ones among us. If this story touched your heart even a little, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness, True Stories. Because stories like David, Ethan, Sarah, and Lily's remind us that compassion costs nothing but can change everything. And if you believe in kindness the way this little boy did, let this story be the reason you choose to see the person struggling right in front of you today.